So I got a couple of good questions, which is exciting. So one of them was where did water come from, right? Like if everything is consciousness and water, where did the water come from? And so water, it's you can see where it's coming from right now, right? Water is the same as the mythological category of earth is synonymous with water. And so it's like in the beginning God created the heavens and the earth, and the spirit was hovering over the waters of the deep or something like that. I don't have it quite memorized, but the mythological category of earth is all substance, all form, all thing. And then the mythological category of heaven is all all relationship, all platonic form, right? The platonic realm, it's a triangle, only exists in the platonic realm because in the material realm, those are just three dots. Where's the triangle, right? Those are just three lines. Where's the triangle, right? Like even if you have three lines, it's like where's the triangle? It doesn't exist on Earth. Like the triangle doesn't exactly exist on Earth, and it doesn't exactly exist in heaven either, because it's there but it's not existing. And then on Earth, it's the substance of it exists, but the pattern of the relationship by which the substance is drawn together, it's almost like you would make a claim that doesn't exist on Earth either. So then where does it exist? Where do triangles actually exist? Because nothing exists on Earth. It's formless, it's dust, it's chaos, and nothing exists in heaven because there's no thingness to it, there's no substance to it. So it exists only where those two things meet. And where those two things meet, you get something akin to a mixture of those two things. Is it pattern or is it form? Right? And then that's where water came from. Water is the union or the bridge or the junction point between pattern and form, both mythologically and physically. So mythologically, we'll find it in the Christian narrative, water is the bridge between matter and form, but it's literally the bridge. It's like the bridge that the army marches over. Nobody really goes into. It's like you could have this bridge that is the crux or the key or the central point to the story of maybe the person had to cross the bridge, or the whatever had to cross the bridge. And it's the whole crux of the story depends on it crossing the bridge, but people just talk about who crossed the bridge, why they crossed the bridge. That stuff in a sense is more important than bridges, right? It would be very autistic to tell a movie about these characters crossing a bridge and then go into an aside about how this bridge and every single rivet and the brilliance of its placement and its function and what it allows to do is just the most amazing thing in the world. That doesn't make any sense. So people don't really do that, but you'll notice that water is that place, water is that arena, water is that thing that allows the plot to unfold. And so in that sense, it's very cool, especially from that scientific autistic perspective, because it takes this location in all situations. So in Christianity, for instance, it's the doorway into truth. If you're being introduced to truth other than through God himself, the mythological structure, the word spoken with the pattern of existence of what Christ did and commanded, was that the people Yeah, you're put underwater 3 times in a row. Like that's the door, like that act is what crosses the person from unillumined into illumined. So if you're interested in the illumined state or the unillumined state, the boundary point by which you would start to categorize these two states is water. Possibly time, because you did something 3 times. So you do something 3 times, and this signifies, this maps out like all of time. In that it's experienced, it's remembered to be experienced. And then, oh, I've seen this before. That's the perception loop of which came first. Because you can't really see, you can't consciously see something until you're like remembering yourself seeing it. Otherwise, there's no way for it to come into your perceptual net. But so back to the topic, like water is that line, that boundary between the two realms, between the two states, between the two everything. And so when you look at water, what is it? What is it that we're experiencing? When you look at it scientifically, we're experiencing this this pattern of the electromagnetic field. All of the quote-unquote oxygens and the hydrogen molecules, they have an associated amount of electrical charge around them that people have called electrons, right? And so when you have water together, it seems like there's some hydrogen in there, there's some oxygen in there, and then surrounding that hydrogen and oxygen to an immense degree, right? For every hydrogen and oxygen, it has this to every tennis ball of oxygen has a football field of electromagnetic energy around it. And so when all of that gets together, it all blends and bleeds together so that all the electromagnetic energy is just one single field. So you see one single object. When you look at something like grass or concrete or asphalt, or like where asphalt's boundary, bordering on air, you have the electrons of the asphalt and the electrons of the air they're in a bounded state. So you see a boundary, you see a limitation to them. All of the electrons in water are sharing, but they're sharing in this weird way where it's like, imagine you could just take clumps of asphalt out of itself, right? You could take an object, and if it was water, you'd be able to just take that water and separate it, right? So it's this weird state between, it's there, it's not like the air, right? It's not so rarefied that you can't see it, and it's not so dense that you can't move into it, or that it sticks to itself like an object. Like it doesn't really stick to itself like an object, other than this very gentle amount we call surface tension. Like it has coherent identity, right? So water is this bridge material between no form heaven and formed earth, and that's why it's earth that can hold form, right? Like water is earth capable of holding form. It's this mixture, and it collects at the boundary between heaven and earth, right? The water sits right between heaven and earth, and always serves as a mediator point. Without the water there between heaven and earth don't interact that much. It's just two different atmospheres rubbing past each other and not mixing. Kind of like the air, like between an air and a rock. There's no dialogue between heaven and earth. But if you get like a field or a substance or something, and you put water on it, all of a sudden the energy, like the water can evaporate up into alter heaven. Heaven can condense water down, so energy can kind of exchange between heaven and earth where water is. That's the purpose and the utility of water. It's doing that all the time wherever it is. And it is you could argue that it is the result of that interaction. And so back to that one thing, when you're looking at water, because of the way that it's kind of mixed together, you're actually interacting with that electrical field. Normally the electrical field of air is moving around you and you're not influencing it, or the electrical field of an object like the ground or a rock is not letting you in it. That's why it's an object. And so you don't really get to interact much with the electrical field other than just the surface of it. But with water, you're interacting with the electrical field that's behaving in such a way that it's responsive to you at this level of being a body. At this level of being comprised of, these sense organs and stuff like that. Water is the electrical field that you can perceive and interact with, because it's just behaving in such a way that its qualities or its nature is apparent at this level. So this is back to, where did Earth come from, right? Water is the electrical field. You can use it like normal Earth. You can't interact with it because it has no meaning. But if you go at understanding what the mythological category of Earth is through the lens of water, you can see that you can't normally see Earth. It's hypothetical, but with water you can actually see Earth, because the Earth is holding a pattern and it's still Earth. It's substance, it's water, and that substance is the electromagnetic field. That's what we're seeing. And then there's something going on with the electromagnetic field, that there's a core or there's a nucleus, there's a vortex, there's something going on very tight, kind of associated with these big electromagnetic fields. It's probably a torus, where this is the eye of the torus, and then it's that rolling point, right? Like imagine the breath going into the water. The way it goes into the water it does a torus around the heaven, like the breath, as it goes into the electromagnetic field, right? Like this is how atoms are made, but this is the water thing too. Wait, so just basically the water is also the electromagnetic field, just like all other objects. I'm saying that water is matter, just like all matter, right? But you'll notice that water responds to pattern, form, air, breath. It'll hold waves. It responds to the wind. It responds to the air. It allows the air to go in it. And the way, like if you throw an object into water or through water, you'll see that the water does this as the object goes into the water. Even though the water's accepting it, the water moves in these circular patterns, vortices, eddies, and so the air goes through the water without becoming the water, but the water responds to and moves according to the air, or going according to the object going into it. Like think of a bullet going through water. It doesn't go into the water, it doesn't become field, it doesn't become water necessarily, but the water doesn't break what it is. Water doesn't break off from the other water, like the way that an object would fragment or an object would shatter. Like normally if you hit an object with shoot it with a bullet, the identity will shatter. Like if you shoot an object with another object, the identity shatters, except with water. And water doesn't, the identity doesn't shatter, nor is the identity like not there or loosely present. so it conforms to the shape or the object going in, and that conformity of like letting the energy go through you without it changing or altering what you are is how the water lets waves go through it. It just moves in a big circle. An object goes through it, it just moves in a big circle. You get out of the way, it goes right back to where it was before. But then that lets it be responsive to heaven. Normally, if Earth is responsive to heaven, it breaks, it shatters, it earthquakes, right? Like if the heaven moves an object, it can only like kind of crack it, except if the object is capable of being like water. And so the parts of matter that are responsive to heaven are behaving like water, and that's the electromagnetic field. Right, so the electromagnetic field is behaving fluidically all the time. You're just seeing it in the state of water. But there's this electromagnetic fluidic shell that behaves just like water around all of the elements and all of the atoms. The degree to which they exist, but they bend. Like the fact that you can heat up something or bend it or flex it or change something in a way is only to the degree that its electrons are allowed to act as water rather than acting as a either not there or acting as an object. So water, which is earth, acting in its freest state, because it's like to not exist is to be like air is kind of a limitation. When you see earth, the category of earth, all matter, all thingness, like actually acting as itself, it acts like water. Because anything less dense than water is not acting with full freedom, which would be to be an object. It actually, anything that is at the level of air or more rarefied does not have the freedom to act as an object. So it's like infinitely free, but there's this massive constraint. And so that's the driving force for a lot of mythologies of like, why would the angels or why would Lucifer or why would these higher, freer beings have a desire or a resentment or some interest in, limited embodied human form. In some sense, heaven is more powerful, but the fluidic realm is more free. And that fluid is met where that bridge, that crux, right? So it's the water. Like the water starts to bridge it. That's the base of the mountain that goes to heaven, is water. Right? So none of this other stuff exists other than through water. And so that bridge to heaven might take its full form in Christ, right? The most human of human stories. The story about the crossing over the bridge, right? Who crossed it? Maybe that's the crux, but the bridge remains water. And so in some sense, it's the most central part, because all the other centers take place kind of inside of it. And that relationship next to it is like that. It's next to some really, really cool stuff. Right? The baptism is kind of next to or adjacent to the story of Christ, or any of the stories of any of the humans or the gods that are actually interesting. right, that we have told for thousands of years. Water is not, the nature of water is not something that is, you know, sung by the bards for hundreds or thousands of years. Because it's not quite at that personal level. It's not quite at that level of narrative or myth or story by itself. It always has to have something there, and that's even it in its like its highest, most humble aspect, is as it's there, and it refuses all higher roles. So it's genuinely like the doorway to God, the icon of the most sacred thing, the most beautiful thing. Because part of that beauty is its humility, so it's always going to take this auxiliary role in the story of supporting the whole thing. Because like when it's the electromagnetic field within which the story takes place. Right? Water is the electromagnetic field within which the story takes place. It's the most reasonable, sane thing that because all your concepts have to attach to a perception. So if you're trying to think about quantum mechanics or electrons or the electromagnetic field, you have to attach all of your concepts to water, because that's the only perception that you can even begin to fathom or understand what a field could possibly be. To feel what a field is, so that it's not a disembodied idea. It has to connect to water for the terms to have any meaning whatsoever. Right, and so it's like like the writing of a story, right? The writing of the Bible, the writing of Harry Potter, the writing of an interesting work of art. If you're a materialist, if you're like autistic, the writing is the most important part of the story. Like if you're gonna worship God, worshiping God is as crazy as just worshiping the writing of Harry Potter. Because that's the thing that you love, is the writing. It's the writing, that's what's doing it. It's the thing that's allowing it. It's the word, the logos is the writing. But it doesn't make any sense to like worship like it like God is too humble to be worshipped. And even I would say in Christianity, they don't worship him in this sense. They become him. They don't worship them. The worship is the becoming. You don't bow down before God. You become God in participation, and it's great. But it's not a worshipful thing in the strictest sense of the word. It's just a descriptive thing. People think Orthodox is worshiping in the, oh, that is so great, that is so high, that's so over there. It is just a description of being. And so water, the substance of water this is encoded in something like baptism. The structure of water is the language itself, the medium that is capable of conveying meaning, the medium that's capable of conveying form, to be able to make a triangle real. to be able to allow the platonic or the heavenly realm to merge with or interact with the earthly realms in such a way that a thing can happen. That's water. And so when earth is adopting those, when earth is in dialogue with heaven, it becomes capable of supporting pattern on its surface. Like, that's the waves, right? So you could view the electromagnetic sea of all the electrons in the air as just, it's an ocean. And so there's vibrations go through it. And some of those vibrations seem to be self-contained toroids, like moving through space. Like, we know them to be this, right? It's either a toroid or some standing wave, some sort of pattern in the electromagnetic field is what's creating all objects. And that pattern in the electromagnetic field operates exactly how we see patterns in water happen. So you can hold a wave pattern, you can see cymatics, like what moves water. Water can hold or contain energy. Like, the water can move with a current and like reveal there's energy there. And so water is that event kind of writing about itself perceptually. And it's just like, when you look at like what makes a diamond valuable is the degree to which it acts like water. Just a drop of water of the same way in the sunlight is pure diamond. So every time the ocean sprays, it's just displaying, here, I'm doing what you find to be like one of the most expensive things on earth. And water, you can find it if you study it, it is casually doing everything. It's casually doing all the most complex, subtle operations all the time, like just in the background. Like, people have been studying, like people are like, oh my God, cells are conscious. Oh my God, this is conscious here. Oh my God, this is conscious here. And they're looking at all these different structures and wondering how they're conscious. And it's like, they're all full of water. Like the water, what's causing the oxygen to be pulled through the blood into the body? Everyone's like, why is that chemical reaction run? Like, why is the oxygen going into the body? Why are these chemical reactions running against all known laws of physics, right? With the breath, everyone goes, oh, the body's just breathing. And nobody goes, why? Like, every single part of the breath is pulling physics in the opposite direction of the way that it wants to flow. And we go, where is that happening? And they're like, oh, it's in the ATP, or it's in the respirator. It's like, no, at every time you look into it, why is this going against the laws of physics with the breath? Why am I breathing in instead of rotting, right? And it's all right at the water. The water is making the choice to breathe. The water is deciding to like run the cellular metabolism or not. Like, when the water just stops deciding to run the cellular metabolism, the DNA just becomes some like protein mess and not like a gateway into a cosmic, like funhouse. Right? What makes the DNA what it is versus just nothing? What makes the computer what it is versus the silicone? It's the life operating it. It's the consciousness operating it. So the consciousness operating the cell is the water. Right? So it's like the question, like, where did the water come from? It's right there. It's not like its own origin exactly. It's not the center part of the story. The King Arthur did not find water. it just can't be that way, even though it's the thing. You can't make it the central part of the story, but you can in the story, like, geek out on how it's in the story, and it describes how itself, how you can see, how you can understand, how things do happen. Like you can kind of pull it in that way. But anyway, so that's where water comes from. It's not that complicated.